It's not your imagination, cars have become significantly less affordable over the last decade. For 2024, in the United States, there are only 12 vehicles that will, honest to goodness, cost you under $25,000, including the pesky destination charge, which you cannot avoid, and of course, a minimum of 6% sales tax, which is the national average in the US. Interestingly, Honda has no offerings for you in this space because something like this Honda HR-V, it actually starts just over $25,000 once you include its approximately $1,400 destination charge. And a $1,400 upcharge on something like an HR-V is a pretty significant bump when we're talking about a vehicle that starts theoretically under $25K. It's not a big deal if we're talking about a six-figure car, but for an inexpensive vehicle, that's a pretty healthy bump. So let's talk about what you can buy and actually get out the door for approximately $25,000. Now let's set the ground rules. Not only do we have to include 6% sales tax, we should also include a tiny allowance for registration. There are a decent number of states in the US where registration on something like this Buick Envista could be about $100. So that's the number we're gonna use. And this is the first model that will squeak it in right at around $25,000. $25,004 specifically when you get a base Envista, obviously not in this really bright orange color, but base model, with sales tax, 6%, that $100 for registration, you could get this for about $25,000. Now let's take a look around the side because this is of course a sedan in essence, but it's a sedan with a bit more practicality because this is the close relative of the Chevy Trax. So you're not going to get the power hatch for that $25,000 mark, but it is actually pretty convenient. We have a lift back design back here. We actually find a spare tire under there and even more storage. And on the inside, we find a surprising amount of space. Let's just go ahead and hop inside here. We get the classic annoying beep. We get a 2-screen dash setup depending on the trim level you get. Obviously, you're gonna have to work your way up the trim ladder to get everything that we find in here, but there's a pretty reasonable amount of interior space. And kind of surprising so, we get a reasonable amount of rear seat room as well. I'll just go ahead and hop on over to the other side so Travis can come in a little bit closer. You know, my head's touching the ceiling, but this is actually a surprisingly roomy cabin. Just about 20 or 30 years ago or so, a mid-sized sedan in America wouldn't really have that much more room inside. Obviously, if you want some of the more premium features like the power liftgate there or the ST trim or this bright orange paint job, you're gonna be paying more, but I think this is a reasonable place to start. Let's find out what's cheaper though. Honda may not have anything under $25,000, but Toyota has one option in the Toyota Corolla, about $24,600 for the base version. Obviously, that's not what we're taking a look at here, but you do get one of the most reliable and one of the least expensive to own small vehicles in North America. Now, admittedly, the Corolla, it's not exactly a spring chicken. It's been around for a while, but they have updated it recently with new software, and of course, we get nice touches like adaptive cruise control in every model. That's something that we don't find in a decent number of inexpensive vehicles. On the other hand, however, we have a relatively small back seat. So if Travis opens that door there and comes on in, sorry about that. You know, if I'm sitting back here, my head's touching the ceiling, this front seat was not really that well positioned for me at 6 feet tall. Don't have a great deal of room, but again, you get a Toyota for under 25 grand. Hyundai has two options for us, but going in order, the next one we should talk about is the Elantra. This will set you back $24,241, or you might be able to spring for an SEL trim at $25,089. And here's why you might want to pay that extra 89 bucks, because it's going to be the model with the twin LCD setup, very similar to the one that we find in this N-line trim. Now, clearly you could not get an Elantra N or an Elantra N-line trim for that amount of money. You'd be talking about the one with 147 horsepower. But versus the Buick or the Corolla that we were just looking at, we get a roomier back seat. That's certainly one reason to take a look at the Elantra. I have a reasonable amount of legroom back here. Headroom, kind of limited. It's actually a little bit more limited than we find in that Buick, but definitely roomier than we find in the Corolla. And The trunk is a bit larger and a bit more usable as well. Now you'll notice if you go to some of the dealer lots, you'll be tempted by some of the flashier trims like this Elantra N-Line here, which certainly I think really works better with the aggressive styling that we find in the Elantra, like this karate chop styled back end there, the shiny black bits, etc. But don't be distracted by the shiny black bits because we're here to talk about affordable vehicles. $24,119 could buy you the only German car on this list. It is the Volkswagen Jetta, and it's actually going to be one of the few manual transmissions available for 2024. It's also going to be one of the only turbocharged engines on this list. So you can get a turbo, you can get a manual, and you can get a German car for just under $25,000. Now, if you want the automatic transmission, that's going to be a little bit more expensive. That's going to be just pushing the boundaries here at, let me pull up the price, $24,967. We do get a pretty comfortable interior. Now, of course, this is not the cheap model. This is the GLI, so it's the more sport-focused interior. You're not going to get the steering wheel or the big LCD cluster, but we do get a big back seat, notably larger than the one that we find in the Corolla. So that front seat's actually a little further back. You'll notice I definitely have more legroom there. About the same kind of headroom, maybe just a little bit more. The interior certainly feels a bit more spacious, but obviously the payment for getting a bigger, more spacious car for the same money is that not all the plastics feel quite as premium as some of the other options. Of course, we still have a pretty decently sized trunk. It's actually one of the largest cargo holds in this segment. Just check that out. It actually is pretty hard to even reach all the way back there to the back of that cargo area. Now, one thing I should mention is that a lot of the vehicles in this segment don't come with things like floor mat standard. So if you are looking to spend a little bit less on your next car, keep some of those auxiliary costs in mind. Nissan currently has the most options under $25,000 in the United States. This is not one of them, however. This is the all-new Kicks. If you want the 2024 Kicks, it's going to start around $23,500, including destination sales tax, etc. So it's definitely one of the more affordable hatchback-style vehicles. Now, big change for 2025. We're going to get not just the hatch, we're going to get a restyled vehicle. It's completely new, more powerful engine. We're going to get available all-wheel drive and a bigger cargo area. But along with that is probably going to come a bigger price tag. We don't know exactly what this model will cost yet, so let's move on to the next most affordable, which is going to be this Smurf Blue Sentra starting at $23,451, including all of those fees. I think the Sentra is actually one of the better looking options in this segment. I have to admit, I like the fact that Nissan has not only continued to dedicate themselves to affordable transportation, they've actually continued to update the styling of their affordable models, including the most affordable option in America, which of course we're going to get to in the end, but I've perhaps given a little bit away. Let's take a look at the inside of the Sentra here. On the inside of the Sentra, we have some of the most comfortable seats in the affordable segment, something that Nissan has long been known for. Something that Nissan has also long been known for, of course, is continuously variable transmissions, and not everybody is happy with CVTs. But if you're talking about new transportation, we do have a long new car warranty, so that should help alleviate some fears. We also have, I think, a well-styled dashboard and interior. Now again, as I keep saying with all these vehicles, this is not the low-end trim, but all models are going to have quite a bit of room in the back. So as you can see, like we found in that Jetta, lots of legroom back here. Not as much headroom as in the Jetta though, so hopefully the people in the back, they're a little bit shorter than I am. The trunk though, that's definitely one of the larger options in the segment. How does our 2024 Value Car of the Year stack up? Well, that would be the Chevy Trax, the close relative of the car that started this episode off, of course, the Buick Envista. It's not the least expensive in America, but I do believe it is the best value in America. It has a starting price of $20,400 or $22,884 out the door by our math. Depending on the offers available at the time, that could be a monthly payment under $500 with nothing down for 48 months. Of course, if you qualify for the latest deals. But the Trax isn't just affordable. It's solidly and unexpectedly fun. If you have a little extra cash, you can also get one of the biggest LCDs in an affordable car. $24,898 out the door would get you an LT trim with Chevy's massive 11-inch Google-powered touchscreen. And thanks to its hatchback design, the interior and the cargo area are considerably roomier than you might expect. This is actually one of the more accommodating, more roomy entries in this segment, regardless of the price tag. It's certainly bigger inside than something like the Hyundai Venue.
Of course, it's not as boxy and pragmatic as a Kia Soul, but I think it's a better deal, and it's certainly more fun to drive.
Kia Soul is a long-time option for pragmatists, and at $22,513, it's pretty easy to see why. If you want alloys and blind spot monitoring, you can actually do that in a Soul LX for $23,874. The rest of the lineup, it's a little bit too expensive, so just cut that GT line that you're looking at right here off the options list. But you could also get a Forte for $22,513, but you need to act fast because it's getting replaced by the K4 soon, and pretty much everybody expects that it's going to be a bit more expensive. We get basically the same engine and transmission in both of them, 147 horsepower, 2-liter 4-cylinder with a CVT. The big reason, of course, to get the Soul is because of its immense cargo practicality, and that's exactly why back in 2016 I ended up with the Soul EV for a while. It has a big boxy cargo area, a surprising amount of rear seat room, so if you're looking for something small city-wise, easy to park, but you want significantly more practical room than you'd find in a Corolla or a Civic or an Elantra or even that Forte, you probably want to take a look at the Soul. Just keep in mind, hamsters aren't included. The Forte, it's probably going to be a decent deal because honestly, with the K4 replacing it soon, you're probably going to get a really good deal at the dealer lot. So you might want to hang on, wait till the K4 is actually on sale, scrounge up one of those last run Fortes. You probably can't go wrong with that. The most value-focused Hyundai, unfortunately, is not here at the New York Auto Show. That's the Hyundai Venue, and it definitely is inexpensive. It starts at $22,651, including, again, that destination charge, sales tax, etc. If you want auto climate, a sunroof, leather steering wheel, etc., you could get up to $24,771, but you're always going to get the same 1.6-liter 4-cylinder with 131 horsepower and a CVT. It's not a bad combo as long as you're looking for something that's small, easy to park, cheap and cheerful, definitely affordable, but not exactly as premium as something like an Elantra.
The Mitsubishi Mirage isn't the least expensive car in America, but it probably is the cheesiest cheap car around, and it is my least favorite as well. The 78 horsepower 3-cylinder engine has troubles getting the car out of its own way, and while it does get 39 miles per gallon on the EPA cycle, is a 4 or 5 mile per gallon bump worth the 3-cylinder 78 horsepower engine? Not really in my book. On the other hand, $19,296 out the door would leave you with $5,000 left over in this budget to buy yourself a clever disguise so your friends won't know you're the one driving the Mirage.
Of course, if you really want to save some money, Nissan continues to have the least expensive new vehicle in the United States. It's, of course, the Nissan Versa for 2024. In fact, it's so inexpensive, you could get a fully loaded Versa and be under that $25,000 price point. One thing that I have appreciated is that Nissan has kept the Versa fresh. So they recently gave it this front-end design. This is not the first year of it. This is actually the second, but it has helped it stay a little bit more in line with the rest of the Nissans available in North America. It is, of course, a sedan. So if you want something hatchy, that's going to be the Kicks. If you want something even more affordable, you're going to want the Versa. We get a surprising amount of room in this car. I'll actually hop up front first just so you can see what's going on here. And that's been the impressive thing about the Versa. Since this is sold all around the world in markets where people want affordable transportation, but they still want room, they've definitely given us that. I have plenty of room up there up front. And you know, it's not as roomy as a Sentra, as you'd assume, but actually I have a little bit more headroom back here, which is somewhat surprising, and there's still just a skosh of legroom. Of course, all the plastics are gonna be pretty hard in the base trim, but again, you could work yourself up to this exact shade of red, etc., for within the price point. And we still have a really darn big trunk back here that I find a little bit more practical than the one in the Sentra because it's actually a little bit taller in this dimension. I've always appreciated cheap and cheerful transportation, and that is exactly what we find in this model. If you want a manual, there's that. If you want an automatic, there's that as well. And because even a fully loaded model is within the price range of this comparison, we get that partial LCD instrument cluster, the touchscreen LCD, automatic climate control, heated front seats, etc., all for that under $25,000 price point. But what if you're interested in all-wheel drive? Well, this is one of the least expensive options right here. It is the Subaru Impreza. It's relatively new, which also means you're probably going to be paying a little bit of a premium for it on the dealer lots. It's pretty practical because the hatchback is now standard. The Impreza does not come as a sedan anymore, but with tax and with destination, this is going to be over $25,000. So what do you think of that makeup? Which of these list of vehicles would you choose? Obviously, the Impreza cannot be on that list because it is a bit too expensive, but let me know what you think about that. Let me know what your choice would be down there in the comment section below. See all of you later.